How's it going, guys? Today we are talking about EDC systems, being prepared, and some of the pitfalls I feel like we all succumb to. So the 4 systems we're gonna be looking at are what goes in our pockets, how to use our EDC kits, backpacks, and the vehicles we use. Starting with what goes in our pockets really kicks off my 3-part philosophy when it comes to anything that I'm carrying in any of these systems. The first thing is being prepared for the things that I may encounter in any given day. The second thing is being prepared to help other people. And then finally, it's a little bit of a smaller consideration, and that is having something that's cool or has a really unique story or just something that's fun that I can carry on a daily basis. Looking at the base of what goes in my pockets personally kicks off with a couple of tools. Now, I think that everybody should carry a pocket knife. I think they're super useful. I think they're super handy. I think they are great tools. Now, aside from that, something like a small Swiss Army knife, I like the Victorinox Compact, is really great aside from the fact that it has a knife blade on it, but it also has a pair of scissors, it has a way to pry, and it has a couple unique little tools that you can find helpful in just your day-to-day life, like a little screwdriver or a toothpick or a pair of tweezers. And it's all nice and compact in a little package. Now, for me personally, I've also found that carrying a pair of pliers or a wrench around is really helpful. I ride motorcycles, I drive old cars. Again, I like to help people. I'm fairly handy around the house or around the office. I've experimented throughout the years with different things like crescent wrenches and Gerbers and Leathermans, and you'll see some of those things in these other systems that I carry. But when we're talking about the immediate initial thing that's at an arm's length basically all the time, I found that the Knipex or the Knipex pliers are a great fit for me, but having a pair of pliers or a wrench I have found to be basically indispensable. I probably use these things at least, I don't know, once every other day. And this really opens up kind of the Pandora's box when it comes to our EDC. And I think that we consider the what of our EDC a lot. And I don't know if we're considering the why as much. I know that I get caught up in the what, like, oh, what's cool, what's new, what are people carrying? But I like to focus a lot on the why. And so everything that I carry in all of these systems, I have a pretty strong why for. So for example, my flashlight, I carry a really simple flashlight, 3 beams, it's Phoenix E12, you guys all know. But the why for my flashlight isn't just about having a pocket light in my pocket that's accessible, but it's also about having a headlamp because I wrap this hair tie around it and I'm able to attach it to my glasses. It's funny how in a pinch, things like a hair tie can be very handy. And when we're considering our why and our what, for me, that's when we really start to get into the pocket knife portion of my pockets. My why on my pocket knife is I've been carrying a pocket knife since I was, I don't know, 8 years old or something like that. So I always have some sort of a pocket knife on me. This is just like a really inexpensive $40 Rough Rider knife. I recently just got this down in St. George and it's a cool little knife. Like, it's useful, it's great, and it looks good, going kind of that third principle of my EDC philosophy. And the why of it is that because I've been carrying a knife for so long, I think that I would be lost if I didn't carry a knife every day. I use my pocket knife every single day for different tasks. If you carry a pocket knife regularly, you probably also know that you're helping people out fairly regularly. Hey, do you have a pocket knife? Hey, can I borrow your knife? It is just a really useful tool that hits kind of all 3 of those elements of that EDC philosophy. When considering your knife on the what, that's great, but there's also the why, and this is part of the tendency that I have to have so many different knives, or that I like to have so many different knives. Let's say that I'm doing some construction, or I know that I just need like a good tough tool, then I'm gonna reach for like a Milwaukee 1505. I've got a little multi-tool on it. I've got exchangeable blades. We have an entire video on this tool if you guys want more information on this. This thing is amazing. It could probably replace like 90% of the time that I carry an EDC knife with just this thing. Or let's say that I'm going camping, right? So the why of why I'm camping is I'm gonna go out camping, maybe I wanna practice some bushcrafting skills. So I'm gonna reach for my Tom Brown tracker, and that's what I'm gonna take camping with me because it's a big camp knife. It can do simple camp tasks, but I can also practice bushcrafting skills or, you know, whatever it may be along that front. These are kind of the main tools that you'll find in my pocket every single day that are at finger touch lengths to help me help myself, help other people, and then just kind of have something cool on me that I like. Now, this covers a vast majority of my needs on any given day, but I find myself traveling a lot and I find myself working on old vehicles a lot, which means I need to have a little bit more on me when I'm not in a home base often, I'm not in the same vehicle often, but I'm kind of just out doing whatever, which leads me to EDC kits. An EDC kit really is an extension of the things that you need on any given day. I actually have an entire video on this EDC kit with the what and the why, and kind of looking at some of those principles that we're talking about when we're talking about the things that we carry and being prepared. And there's a lot of fun comments in that one that are like, man, that's too much stuff, or there's no way you're carrying or using that all the time, or are you putting that in your pocket? How are you carrying it around? And that will get us to our backpack eventually. But the reality of this kit is I travel a lot. And this brings us to a really important consideration and pitfall when it comes to our EDC. I think sometimes, and I'm just as guilty as anybody else, we have a tendency to carry way more than we need because we have some cool gear, or we saw somebody talking about some cool gear that we thought we wanted. And I think also we have a tendency to mirror what other people are carrying instead of considering what we really need. This kit here I have built up over years of traveling and shooting YouTube videos and doing all the things that I do. And the reality of it is I use every single thing in this kit at least once a month because I find myself on the road a lot. Now, I recognize that that is unique. Not everybody travels as much as I do for work or for other reasons. So some of these items are not going to be essential for what your day-to-day needs are. But when we're talking about the idea or the philosophy behind our EDC kit, it just goes back to that idea of I don't want to carry a ton of things in my pockets. What other things might be useful in my day-to-day? So you can check out the video that we did that is exactly on this kit and some of the whys and whats that I use there. We're going to be building a kit with Jamie soon here on the channel, which I think you guys will dig. But I think there are some essentials inside of my kit that could be useful for everybody. And I'm going to kick that off with my battery pack. The reality of it is that one of the biggest EDC tools we all use on every given day is our phones, right? And between phones, charging microphones, charging cameras, charging laptops, I find that having a good power pack on me is just indispensable when it comes to my everyday. I probably use this thing, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week easily. I've got something plugged into this charger to make sure that I can do my job or make sure that I can help somebody out. I've actually used this to help other people charge their phones and things like that. Along with that, obviously, you need a cord or cords depending on what system you're using. Unfortunately, I'm on the iPhone system, so I have this dumb lightning cord, but I also have a USB-C cord in here because almost every other piece of electronic I have runs on USB-C. I think another thing that people don't think about often, but I think can be really useful in your EDC kit is a spork. And I know that sounds really silly, but here's the thing. This is just, I think this is like K-Bar. K-Bar makes this spork. It has like a knife inside of it. I've never used the knife, but it's kind of fun and cool. But a spork can actually be really useful. So being on the road a lot, I eat out a lot. I eat out a lot of places. I'll stop at a grocery store, grab some grub. So I find this to be super useful, but chances are you're probably not living in your house every single day. And having a spork on you, you'd be surprised how often you probably would use it if you had one with you. And then moving from that, again, just thinking about charging, if you have a cord, it's probably a good idea to also have a way to plug that cord into something. So I just got this Anchor plug-in thing. It's got USB 2.0 and USB-C plugins, so I can charge my stuff from a wall. If I have to be at a gas station or a truck stop or in a library or whatever it is, I can charge my stuff up. Now, I have some other very specific tools to me in here, like batteries. I've got a Leatherman, like a full-size Leatherman that could be very useful for a lot of people as well, especially if you don't want to carry like a pair of Nip-X pliers or something like that around. This is just a Wave Plus, great little tool to have on you. But really at the end of the day, I probably have way more stuff in this kit than you or most people need on the daily basis. But I don't leave the house without this thing because I found that these items are just indispensable. And this whole kit and the idea of an EDC kit goes right back to that idea of being able to help myself, being able to help others, and then again, the ability to know what I'm carrying and why I'm carrying it. In that EDC kit video that we did, like I mentioned, a lot of people were like, are you carrying it like a clutch? Are you putting it in your pocket? And the reality of it is this is quite a bit. So it gets thrown in a saddlebag if I'm on my motorcycle, or it'll get thrown in my backpack. So let's take a look at this backpack idea. Backpacks. I think one of the biggest pitfalls when it comes to EDC backpacks has to do with knowing how to use the things we are actually carrying. Because a backpack allows us to carry a lot of gear, whether for better or for worse. I change my backpack out pretty often because I have a handful of backpacks, and my backpacks are kind of like my knives when it comes to that third philosophy in EDC. I like different backpacks for different reasons. Obviously, there's applicable reasons why, and then there's aesthetic reason why. So sometimes I'll just change my backpack out for fun. But there are some key components I think are important to an EDC backpack if you're going to be integrating it into your daily life and your daily carry, at least things that I've learned and things that I have preferences for. So this particular backpack is a Huckberry Mystery Ranch collaboration. It is a great little bag. I've really been enjoying it. Huckberry did send it to me, but I do enjoy it, and they're not paying for a review or anything like that, but I have been using it and liking it. So it has a lot of the things that I like in a backpack. Now, you might have seen me take my jacket off the front when I first pulled it up, and that's a big thing for me in bags. I really like to have a system out in front of the bag that allows me to strap other things to it. Whether that's a jacket, or whether that's like another piece of gear, or whether that's some trash that I find on the side of the road, I like to be able to strap things to my bag and just make it a little more modular and bigger than it really is. Another big thing for me, as you probably saw here, is a water bottle pocket. I don't really use a lot of fancy water bottles. I do have like a hydro flask somewhere, but I tend to just buy a smart water bottle and then use it until I can't use it anymore. But having a way to store water bottles on the outside of my bag is a huge thing for me because, again, I travel a lot, and it's a lot cheaper just to fill your water bottle for free wherever you are than buying water bottles over and over and over again. The biggest thing for me when it comes to an EDC bag is internal organization and internal accessibility. So I love this Mystery Ranch bag because, first, you have top access that you can just kind of get in and get whatever you need. But then obviously you can see here, you have this big zip that allows you to access the entire inside of your bag. And I love that because if the bag was really filled up, obviously I could lay it flat and I could get to my gear this way. Or if I was worried about gear spilling out, I could just unzip that a half, a quarter, 3/4, whatever my needs are. I really love having big access to my bag and then having organization inside. So similar to my EDC kit, there are things that I carry in my bag every day that I definitely don't recommend for every person, but there are a couple things and important considerations I think when we're talking about bags that are probably useful for most people. And one of those things when we're considering the 3 reasons why carrying EDC, why being prepared, is very easy, and that is a first aid kit. And this brings me again to that idea that we need to know how to use the things we are carrying. And so I keep myself CPR certified, and this little kit actually contains quite a bit of what you would need on the regular. Now, when I cut myself, I'll just use some super glue and some electrical tape. That's in my EDC kit. However, in my first aid kit, I'll keep some aspirins and some Excedrins and things like that. And I find that what I'm usually doing is giving these to other people who need them, right? But I've got bigger bandages, I've got some blood clot stuff, things like that. Now, talking on that concept of knowing how to use the things that we carry, I have carried a tourniquet in the past as part of my first aid kit, but I don't currently carry it. And that is because I know that some of the specifications on how to use a tourniquet have changed, and I'm not currently trained on that. So I don't feel comfortable carrying a tourniquet and then applying it incorrectly or not knowing how to apply it and putting somebody at risk. So that's a good example of knowing and training with the things that we actually carry. Now, from there, it's wintertime in Utah, or I guess it's springtime, but it's still early spring, so it's still really cold. So whether I need it or not, I always leave the house with a jacket on my bag. And then I also have in my top pocket here, I have a pair of wool gloves and I have a beanie. Because if I get in a situation where I break down, or I get in a situation where I have to get out of my vehicle to help somebody, or whatever it may be, I have to go on a hike or whatever it is, I have the things that I need to basically stay warm and function a lot longer outside than I would if I was just dressed like this on any given day or any given space. And then finally, something that I think everybody should carry because I found it really useful. It has literally saved my life. This is a sarong or a shmag or like a big handkerchief or whatever like that. I carry a sarong specifically because my best friend growing up was actually from India. So this is like a full wrap type thing. And you can see, I've got, I've got holes in it here. Actually, I think this hole right here was put there by a chipmunk. I went on a hike and I had this wrapped around me for like a summit. I had a big bag and I used this as a summit bag. I just kind of wrapped some gear in it, put it on my bag and tied it around my chest. And I had some trail mix in here, and a little squirrel nibbled through this and got into my trail mix, so that's on me. But it's a really big, I mean, you can use this as a towel, you can use this to wrap things up, you can use it as like a sling bag, like I use it. And this thing has literally saved my life. I was in a serious motorcycle accident, and I had this wrapped around my neck in my jacket and around my face, which is another thing that you can use sarong for. And I crashed and I was on the side of the road and I thought I was gonna die. And I was able, with a bunch of broken bones, I was able to limp up to the side of the road, and I'd pulled this off my neck and I was using it to wave down a car, and it was the middle of the night. And I really do attribute this to that car seeing me and stopping and helping me. Hopefully you are never in that situation, but just an example of how useful something like this can be. Now, I'll be 100% honest, a lot of times this just sits in my bag and I don't use it a ton. And that's kind of the beauty of some of the items you can put in an EDC bag, because you don't have to use every single thing in here because there is a lot of storage. The things that go in my pocket, there is no waste. I use them all the time. The things that go in my EDC kit, there's no waste. I use them very regularly and they help me solve problems that I find myself in regularly. But your bag can house a couple extra little things, but we don't want to fall in that pitfall of being excessive and not knowing how to use them. And finally, the one thing that I always have in my EDC bag is a good fix blade. Now, this particular thing that I have is a new knife from CRKT. I've been doing some testing on it. This is the Bugsy. It's a Kayla Cummings design, really cool. I like the micarta version myself. And it's got a leather sheath, which is super rad. And the really cool thing, because it's CRKT, a lot of their stuff is made overseas. They're doing a shift where they're making some more of the stuff made in the USA. So this is actually made in the USA by Tops, and it's a rad little knife. A little bit small for my hand, but I am carrying it in my EDC bag so that when I have an opportunity to use my fixed blade, I can put this thing to use and just get some testing in to give you guys a full review on it. And that actually brings me to the sponsor of this video, which is CRKT Knives. CRKT Knives recently approached the channel. They said, hey, we really like what you guys are doing. We'd love to find a way to help out. And we were like, hey, well, we have sponsorships. Are you interested in doing some sponsors? And they're like, yes, we want to do a sponsorship. So we pitched them on some stuff. And the really rad thing is they came back to us and they were basically like, well, that's actually not enough. We want to help your channel more. And so they decided to help the channel out even more than we were asking, which was just so awesome and really helps us to make these types of videos. So you guys should definitely check out CRKT. You know, they work with some of the best designers in the world. They have some really incredible designs out there. And really, for me, CRKT, they just have so many amazing budget options that it just made sense for us to partner with them, because I love so many of the designers and so many of the knives they do. And like I was mentioning, they're doing this really interesting move where they're doing more USA production. So they have a knife that they're doing with Hogue right now. They have this knife that they're doing with Tops, and I know they have a lot more planned. So thank you, CRKT, for sponsoring this video. And you guys already know CRKT does some amazing stuff, so make sure to check them out. Now, I've got what's in my pockets, I've got my kit, and I've got my backpack. All of these things can travel with me, whether I'm going on a hike, whether I'm walking down the road, whether I'm on a motorcycle, or whether I'm in my car. So let's take a look at what being prepared with our vehicles looks like. The final boss in our carry system and in being prepared is our vehicle. So whether that's a bicycle, a motorcycle, or a passenger vehicle, and I have had all three of those as primary conveyance. So this applies to anything. And going back to the principle of concentrating a little bit more on the why instead of the what I carry in any particular vehicle will definitely change based on the vehicle. So I've got a newer 4Runner, and that 4Runner, I have a bunch of, off-road recovery stuff on it. I also have a 1979 vintage van. So that just has like a lot of tools in it in case I have a breakdown. But I think there are a couple key things that you can put in almost any vehicle to be prepared to help yourself, help other people, and maybe even have something kind of cool to show off. The first thing that comes to mind is, of course, the ability to change a flat tire. This is something that is such an easy skill, and I don't know how many people do or don't know, but it is such an easy skill, but it is something that will completely ruin your day if you don't have the tools, and more importantly, going back to our backpack carry, the knowledge on how to change a flat tire. Now, I just pulled the jack out of my van. So this is the jack that I keep in my vintage van. My vintage van has a very low front to it. And I found that this bottle jack worked perfectly just under one of the cross members. This jack also should be useful on most vehicles that I encounter on the side of the road. So if I wanted to be able to help somebody else change a flat tire, this jack would be pretty handy. The same goes for my 4Runner. Now, obviously in my motorcycle, I'm not carrying a jack around, but I do carry a tire plug kit, so I can hopefully at least plug a tire until I can get into a town, and I'm not having to be reliant on somebody else. When it comes to changing a tire, and we're talking about a passenger vehicle, I will make a recommendation, and that is carrying a 4-star lug wrench. And the reason is, obviously, you could just get a single wrench because you know exactly what the lug nuts are on your car, or at least should. And you could carry that and you could change your own flats and it won't be an issue. I like to carry the 4-star for that second principle in my EDC philosophy. You might encounter somebody on the side of the road that has a different lug size than you do, and this would allow you to help them change their tire as well, whether they have a kit or don't have a kit or whatever it may be. Now, going from that idea of being able to help yourself and help others, I think something that is really critical to have in any passenger vehicle and even in a motorcycle is a good jump charger or a good pair of cables. Now, I'm going to talk about this case in just a second because, again, I have a unique need here on my Y, so I carry mine a little bit differently. But I've got this it's kind of like an older, like Noco Boost Plus battery pack charger. This thing will jump a V8 vehicle, which is important because in my van, I rebuilt the engine on that and I put a pretty gnarly camshaft in it. So I need to make sure that I can give it enough juice to get everything turned over. But again, in the interest of being able to help other people, I want to be able to help basically any vehicle I find on the side of the road or in a parking lot or whatever that needs a jump. And the cool thing about this particular battery pack is it also doubles as just a charging port. So it has like a USB charge, you can plug USBs and stuff into it. But whether it's this or just a good set of cables, you want to be able to have a way to jump your own battery or help somebody else jump theirs. Now, I mentioned the case. So the reason that I carry it in a case like this is I was carrying it in a soft case. But again, I travel a lot and I find myself in a lot of different vehicles that aren't my own. So whether this is working with other brands or whether this is helping out friends or whether this is going to buy, a jalopy up in Idaho or whatever it is, I found that when I was traveling with that soft case, the button on my charger was getting turned on regularly because I wasn't just leaving it in one place, I was moving it around a lot. And I was going to use it sometimes and it was dead. So again, thinking of the why, being able to help people and being able to travel with it and being able to put it in different vehicles, I got this hard case. I think I got this from Harbor Freight or something like that. It's a great little hard case and it gets the job done for my charging needs. And then I think finally, the last thing to consider when you're thinking about your vehicle, being able to help yourself and being able to help others. And I don't care if you're driving a big F-350 diesel or you're driving like a little Toyota Corolla, I think that you should have a strap or two, a tie down or two in your vehicle. And there's a few reasons for this. One reason, if you have a smaller car, you've probably experienced this where you went to go pick up a shelf from IKEA or Target or whatever, and you put it in the back and it kind of hangs out the back. If you have a strap on you, you don't have to go buy a strap inside. It'll be probably a better quality strap and you're not stuck until you pay more money. The other reason I think that it's important to have a strap, and I know there's gonna be some opinions on this. I've owned a lot of just not great cars, and I've been in a lot of not great situations with not great cars. So I do stand by what I'm about to say, even though it's not best practice. And that is if you get a really high rated strap and a really thick strap, you can use this at a very slow speed on the side of the road with flashers to help pull somebody out of the road or to have somebody help pull you out of the road. And that doesn't mean that you should be towing at speed or anything like that. I'm talking just to get to the next exit and get off a highway basically, or 5 miles into town with your flashers on at 10 miles an hour. You can use these straps in that way. I had a little Hyundai Accent, or I can't remember, it was a little Hyundai hatchback, right? And I passed this old high body off-road vehicle that was broke down on the side of the road. And the guy was like half a mile from the exit and it was, on the highway there in Vegas. So I pulled over with my little crappy car. I pulled out my tough strap. We hooked him up and we just limped him to that exit and got him off the exit grate. So this can be useful to help yourself and this can be really useful to help other people in a pinch if you have to. And then finally, when I'm thinking about kind of the carry system in your car, I think it's really important to have a way to use your phone, which is such a good tool in your car. And you guys have heard me talk about quad lock on the channel. So this is something that I actually travel with. And this is a quad lock that goes in the vent of whatever vehicle you're using, like if it's a rental vehicle or a friend's or whatever it may be. and you can hook your phone up to it with your quad lock case. You can use this to use your phone for navigation, use it for music, whatever it may be. I'm not fancy enough to have a car that has like AirPlay and CarPlay, well, I don't know what it's called, all that fanciness. So I use my phone for that stuff instead of a screen on my car. I find that some rental cars, you can use their system, some you can't. So anyways, this quad lock vent thing is really, really useful. And I think that having some sort of phone mounting system in your car can be really helpful to your everyday and the things that you're doing. So when we're talking about the gear that we can carry in our car, if we have a problem of carrying a bunch of stuff in our bag that we're not using and don't know how to use, you can really do that with a vehicle. So the cool thing about your car is it's like the final stack in this 4 system. So you have the things that are immediately available to you in your pocket that you can problem solve with, and you can problem solve a lot with just what's in your pocket if you're thinking about your whys and you're thinking about the things that you really need. And then you compound that with your EDC kit, and then you compound that with your backpack, and then you compound it with the final boss of your car. Chances are, if you've stacked all those systems on top of each other and you're fairly handy and you kind of know what you're doing, you could probably get yourself out of almost any situation if you have that stack all the way to your vehicle. And again, where I work on a lot of vehicles, I ride on motorcycles, I find that having that stack is really useful in a lot of different situations. This is something that I have been thinking a lot about, and I love reading the comments that you guys leave, especially when people are like, oh, that's too much stuff to carry, that's not enough stuff to carry. The reality of it is my systems personally are based on literally over a decade of experience of needing different tools, needing different things in different situations, and then honing in on what works best for me. And I invite you to do the exact same thing, because you'll find that as you're prepared from your pockets to your kit, to your backpack, to your vehicle, not only are you just gonna be more confident and prepared and just able to do more things in the world and not be so reliant on other people, you're also going to be able to help other people and make other people's day better, which for me is just such an awesome thing to do. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I would love to hear some specifics about your guys' systems. And if you saw a system here that you would want more specifics on, let me know and we will totally make a video about backpacks or cars or whatever it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll catch you on the next one.